Walla Walla Bing Bang. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you guys loved my super amazing somatic or verbal components right there to bring you all here with us once again at the Arcane Archive. That's right. We're back with another incredible episode of What Are We Doing Today, Sammy?
Well, we're doing another episode of. That's right. It's Cautionary
It's
Chronicles.
the Cautionary Chronicles episode, y'all, if you didn't know, obviously, from the title. But we're so glad to have you all here. As always, if you like what we're doing, be sure to like, comment down below, wherever it might be here. Any of your thoughts, your feelings, any new kind of ideas or topics maybe you want us to discuss and talk about here on the channel. We always appreciate the support you offer. Subscribe, share the channel, make sure to hit that notification bell so that you never miss out on all the new episodes we drop every Wednesday. Again, we appreciate you guys so much. And with that being said, we got all the house cleaning out the way. Let's go ahead and jump right in to today's first session, shall we? This tale is titled The Ballad of Dungeon Mummy Blair, Part 1. GM used me as free labor by Primary Increase 8914. Alrighty now, in this post, I will focus on the major incidents that led to the heart of this horror story. The two kicks, and a punishment that changed everything during the first. And during the second kick, are indeed a specimen of this particular topic. Blair will even do something that crosses into potentially illegal territory. Ooh, my, how scandalous. We're getting into legality, Samuel. Now, if you've read part one or part two of the Blair Saga, then you've already seen the cracks forming. Those were the prologue. Oh shit, we have like a prologue that we maybe have to get into first? The warning signs. But this is where Blair completely loses the plot. You don't need to read them to know this part, however. All right, fair enough. Well, perhaps maybe we'll reference back to those at a later date so that we get a little bit of the prologue, or the prequel, as it were. But for now, let's continue forward, shall we? That's right, buddy. We're about to get into this. I appreciate you wishing me luck and offering your support. TLDR of parts 1 and 2. Blair kicked her co-GM for running a session without her, then canceled several campaigns to cover it up. Okay. She created a perk system, but only her two favorite players ever benefited. Oof. She sabotaged a new campaign just 3 sessions in because I used a homebrew based on her own fursona species. Oh, we got furries, y'all. We got furries in the chat. All right. Then, without warning, she kicked everyone from the group chat. She sounds like an absolutely swell individual, doesn't she, Sammy? Just like an absolutely just delightful individual. And continuing on, and somehow things still got worse. Now, because this is the story where Blair kicks me, not once, but twice, and during the first kick, she introduces a punishment so bizarre, so utterly unprecedented, that even veteran GMs and pro-level players were absolutely stunned. This wasn't just a bad call. It was a glimpse into a terrifying new kind of dungeon mastering. One that weaponizes power dynamics, strips player agency, and could, if left unchecked, revolutionize DMing in all the wrong ways. Honestly, I love your presentation, OP. You are really laying it down for us, showing us the stakes. I feel intrigued. What about you, Sammy? You feeling like we're into this? We're feeling like the stakes have never been higher? You feel good, buddy?
I skipped ahead slightly in the story and I'm terrified.
Well, let's not keep all of our acolytes waiting then in suspense, shall we? Let's continue. It didn't just break the rules. It broke the entire point of D&D. Good lord, that is a bold claim, OP. Cast, OP, who was a Gith slash druid. Ooh, a Gith druid? That's cool. Blair, who's a furry GM antagonist. All right. Avery, GM's favorite player, who is an Isu Mazakin. I don't know if I'm familiar with that. Owen, GM's other favorite player, who's a Pyra Vieta.
I don't
Confused. Catherine, who's a Furbolg player slash Decum.
Yeah,
I'm unfamiliar with some of these terms.
I'm
Casper,
yeah.
server owner slash player. Sable, my soon-to-be new GM slash hero of the story. Okay. Barrett, healer slash Licky slash or Lyra. Reese, Leroy. I'm I'm lost in the sauce here, OP. These
Oh, that's their names.
Y-
It's
Isu.
it's their
Oh, different character names,
it's different
maybe?
character names.
But OP says they're a Gith slash Druid, though.
Yeah, I think that's just what they're going. Like, if you read in Witchlight underneath,
And
it
it says
literally lists.
Furbolg player Deckham, maybe? I guess.
Yeah, I think
So
no, because it was
OP
just
is
the
a
campaign.
Gith named Druid? That would be
No, no,
hilarious.
no. Is a Gith in the first one, is a Druid in the second one. There's two different campaigns.
Ah, okay,
I
okay.
think it's the call sign is Druid because it's a World War II. Let's read.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, campaigns: Wild Beyond the Witchlight, a Feywild template D&D adventure. MIA, World War II soldiers enter the Feywild and rediscover magic lost to the mortal realm for over 100 plus years. Okay. Some events pop off simultaneously around the first kick. I'll provide a timeline where necessary, but let's start with Witchlight, which began in late winter 2023, around the same time MIA started. Witchlight. Gith, Isu, Pyra, Lucky, we began with a stable roster. One early issue. After seeing some of my latest art, Blair encouraged me to use my persona, a psychic mountain lion, Hmm. as a D&D character. I asked what class would fit a telepath, and they said sorcerer and Githyanki. It confused me since I wanted to keep the feline aspect, but I went with it. This led to Blair forcing the Githyanki's lore on me while I still just wanted to be a cat. Okay. I mean, okay. Blair also made a strange rule. We weren't allowed to look up any contents from Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you're
it's
playing
the
the
adventure you're
module,
playing.
yeah, if you're playing the module, it kind of makes sense that you maybe don't want to look it
Unless
up
Wild,
because,
unless Wild Beyond the Witchlight has its own subclasses that you need to be looking up, there is no reason for you to be looking up stuff.
well, at least specifically, like just in the book, like you can look up, yeah, like items or subclasses or whatever if you're gonna like, have things there, but like you shouldn't read through the book ahead of time if you haven't already, if you're playing the module. Like that's yeah. Anyway, pacing issues. We started at level 1. I always got KO'd by enemies. My stats weren't helping, and I couldn't keep up. When I tried to add useful items to help, Blair demanded I remove them, while Owen and Avery had items from her secret perk system. Blair constantly reminded us this is a social based campaign, basically more talking than anything. Now, I like action and doing things. Blair, however, tried her hardest to limit combat. When it did happen, I got overwhelmed while everyone else survived. I asked Blair to help me rework my stats. She said, well, you should have paid attention when you made the character. I, I mean, okay, I would like a little bit more, I guess, more in depth, more elaboration on this. Like, yeah, like you're saying, okay, I was got KO'd by enemies, stats weren't helping. Did you roll for stats? Did you just take, point buy? Did everybody just get like, array? What was the whole session zero thing like? Also, what is your experience with D&D OP? Like, because apparently you weren't familiar with Gith or whatever. If you're trying to use your persona, which was a psychic mountain lion, um, like I mean, you could have, I guess, like what I always forget the name of the humanoid race, the psychic humanoid race that has like two souls or whatever. Um, what are they called again? Asher. Oh, that's from a different thing. Remind me, Sammy. What are they called again? They're the psychic race of humanoids. They have like white hair and everything.
Oh,
I always
Shart
forget. No, not Shadar-kai. Kalishtar. That's the one.
Kalishtar.
Yeah, they're
Jesus
from they're
Christ.
from Eberron. I always forget the name, but I've played one before. They're awesome. They're usually a pretty great psychic insert for things if you want. But Kalishtar are great. Anyway, continuing on. Avery and Isu, assholery disguised as a gameplay mechanic. Avery played a snake named Isu and flavored her charisma as bitchy stats to roll how mean or bitchy she would be. Okay. Unlike the rest of us, Blair gave her a pet, a griffin egg that hatched into a prize creature. Avery always got a pet in every campaign. She also constantly split from the group and got her own story arcs and maps, leaving the rest of us on the sidelines. I don't know. A lot of this seems almost like a recipe for disaster almost immediately, quite frankly. A lot of this huge red flags kind of all around. When we entered the Feywild, we had to get down from a high bridge. I fell and got KO'd. While unconscious, Avery pickpocketed me like I was a corpse and later revealed she stole my rope. Blair never intervened. Avery will do a lot of things that fall in the lines of PvP just because she can, and it's what her character would do. Ah, we love it! They said the word of the day, acolytes. It's what their character would do. It's been a minute since we've got an actual, true word of the day success here. Or, I guess, sentence of the day, we should say. Moving on, Owen in Witchlight. Pyra was a transgender female character. Okay. Owen announced that she used she/her pronouns. During a session, I called Pyra my lady, and Owen got upset. Despite having shared those pronouns, he never clarified further. Could you clarify further, OP? What did he get upset about? Like what was he did was he say was Owen saying that you misgendered her or like what was the problem about? With Blair's friendship hierarchy, Owen and Avery were Blair's right and left hands. They had access to secret campaigns only they could join. I once pitched a campaign idea that Blair would later use and take credit for. I don't see why we're still here even at this point. I just MIA campaign, mismanagement in action. The campaign was slow but stable. During one fight, I locked myself in the train's vault to retrieve a book. Casper, Von Yip, our lieutenant, be became the de facto lead. But due to IRL duties and his own DM table, he often didn't show up. We repeatedly asked Blair to adjust the chain of command. She never did. We were led by a player who wasn't always present, ruining group momentum. Even Avery complained when she had to control his character. This just seems completely dysfunctional. What are we? I don't. Okay. I'm gonna shut up about it and just keep going. Avery's rope incident, losing a new player day one, a new Crow player joined in spring. Avery tied them up on sight. She used the rope that she stole from me, and she was super giddy about it. Yeah, it's the rope I stole from you! Like she deserved a medal for doing either. Then she threatened to eat his character. My character doesn't trust his, was her excuse. Blair never stepped in. That player never returned. You would think Avery would get a bitchy stat inspiration just for that. This incident stood out to me because not only was my own items. Okay, that was a strange structured sentence. Red flag. Avery striped. I think he meant to say stripped. OP stripped his two piece. Striped another player of their ability to play the game and threatened to kill them, invoking a PvP where they couldn't protect themselves. One of the ultimate sins of D&D. This is how you speed run losing new players. You're right about that, 100%. The Secret Cat campaign. Oh no. 2 years earlier, at the start of the One Piece campaign. No, don't ruin One Piece now. Come on, man. I pitched the idea for a campaign to a certain popular book series featuring cats in clans. We'll just call it CATS. Blair promised I'd be the first to know and the first to join. This cat book series was common among furries, but even rarer as a campaign in the D&D community because of the immense requirement to understand the details in the book. You don't come across them easily. Do, do you have to understand everything in the book? I mean, you can take a lot of inspiration. I mean, one Witchlight session, Avery casually mentions a cat session tomorrow. When I ask to join, Avery says, no, it's just for us. The players, Barrett, Avery, and Owen. Barrett later told me we're not allowed to talk about it. I was devastated. After sitting depressed one day, I started watching stream replays, taking notes. I even designed a clan symbol and sent it to Blair. Minutes later, Avery DMs me saying, can you stop with the cats thing? I like the art, but don't get your hopes up. We agreed on 3 players. Why is Avery in the fray when I was messaging Blair? Blair didn't want to be confronted, so she sent Avery to talk to me instead. A convenient excuse. I showed Blair my character made in the same character generator they used to make their icons in. OP, why are you still talking to her? Why are you still like, what are you doing? Later, Blair says, you seem interested in the campaign. I wish I could let you join, but we agreed on only 3 players to focus on story. Maybe you can help me with the game and help me with NPCs? Just think of it as learning to GM. Blair made it out like she was coaching me on GMing and would let me help, but in reality, she wanted free creative labor. She wouldn't let me even play the characters I made or even see the campaign, quickly pulling her recordings from Twitch just to stop me from seeing them. I consulted several people on this, and they all agreed how sketchy this entire matter and the lengths she went to keep me out. And her 3 player promise was an easy failsafe to cop out of her original promise. GMs make last minute additions all the time. There's nothing stopping her. This campaign meant a lot to me, and I waited for so long just to see her slam the door. I don't understand why you gave it to Blair in the first place after all of your previous experiences. Why are you making like again, if you want to play in it, yeah, like do you want to be a player? If you want to run it seems like you even want to run it as a GM because you love to create all of this stuff. You yourself even say how hard it is because you have to have apparently a master class in knowing the book's contents and lore. So what are we talking about? She made me feel like an outsider to my own ideas and flaunted the campaign in front of me. D&D is a collaboration. If you contribute, you deserve a seat at the table. No buts. But yeah, buts though, because nobody has to play with anybody they don't want to play with. That's just kind of how it works. Like, what? If you want to play it, why don't you play it? Why don't you run it for some people? Like you're sounding like kind of a little petulant child, OP. I'm sorry to say. Like this Blair is clearly also like everyone in here sounds like petulant children. What are we talking about? Edit. A lot of people said this story was fake, so next post I come with receipts. Also miss you you also have a lot of typos, OP. To be continued. We will enter the micromanaging and the first kick. Literally, the top voted comment says, "Why are random words capitalized? This reads just so incredibly fake." ETA, the briefest scan of OP's post history shows they're just posting random fake stories, and this saga had part 2 and other bits posted a couple months ago. Then OP responds, "I had a lot of typos. Sorry about that." You have at least 3 lengthy posts about how this person is so awful and unfair. If her games are really so terrible, why are you still playing with her? Thank you, commenter. Yes. Like literally, not to mention again. Next commenter. We weren't allowed to look up any contents from Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Yes, correct. The players are not supposed to read the adventure module. When I tried to add useful items to help, Blair demanded I remove them. Yes, you don't get to add items to your character sheet without purchasing or finding them. That was another thing I was thinking too. It's like, okay, you're adding items. What items are you adding and how are you adding them? Are you being given them by your GM? Are you asking for them? Like, are you requesting the GM to give them to you or to find them somehow? Because it can't just simply be like, oh, my character stats are kind of ass. I'm going to add these items to help boost my stat. Like, what are you talking about? What are we doing right now? Blair never intervened. She was not supposed to if your group did not have a specific rule against this action. Uh, that one's maybe a little bit more up for debate, like in terms of like PvP. Like if there wasn't ever like a specific like thing about it, like and if people were like, because technically speaking, what Avery did was pretty fucked up and weird and messed up, especially to a new player or whatever. And if that's what you're referencing, so GM probably should have stepped in for that one. But it's also true that it's like, hey, you also could have done something to Blair as a player and a character. Or sorry, OP, not Blair, whatever. We were led by a player who wasn't always present, ruining group momentum. The system does not require that the party elect a leader. I don't think Blair is the problem, says a commenter. OP responds, for the rope incident, I had a friend who had also happened to at another table, but in his instance, the GM gave the players 5 minutes to untie the hem. At the 5 mark, the GM says, you untied yourself to get him back into the action. What does that have to do with anything?
I don't.
I am so incredibly lost and confused about all of this. Like it at first it started off relatively interesting where it's like, oh hey, and then also apparently there's a part one and part two of the Blair saga, which is not this, which is also rather confusing. Oh, like yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, OP. You sound like just as much of a train wreck as Blair, Avery, and Owen themselves. This whole situation sounds like one huge giant red flag. Not even red flag, a pool of red paint, quite frankly. Here, like one commenter says, this reads like it was written by ChatGPT, like a good M dash as much as the next man. But the bulleted list, the M dashes, or I said, I like a good M dash. The breathless drama. What if one commenter literally says, you eat crayons? Wow. That's okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, OP. Yeah, this whole thing, I don't know if it's I could believe it's real, to be fair. Like, I don't think it's necessarily fake. It could be. But yeah, this whole thing was written very terribly. I'm sorry to say. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, just brutal honesty. This was like, yeah, you ironically it looks decent enough because you had, sections, you have it kind of layered out, which initially appears to be organized, but it's not because of like where the actual like the actual text and context of the words you're using. You kind of just all of a sudden break off in a way that doesn't feel satisfying. Um, and then move on to the next thing. You're saying pacing issues, and a lot of what you're talking about wasn't necessarily even like for instance, when it says pacing issues, you're not talking about pacing here. This isn't pacing. Your pacing should have been connected to the whole the player who wasn't showing up, like mismanagement in action. Like that's like a pacing issue there, maybe. But saying pacing issues and then talking about you start at level one and you got KO'd by enemies. Like I guess you could talk about pacing, but like it sounds more so like you're complaining more about the fact that you felt either targeted or underpowered for the thing. It's not necessarily pacing if you're getting hurt because at least if you're still completing the combat, like I, combat can take a while depending on things, especially depending on how many players and stuff you have. Like, yeah, this
To me, it's more like they might have run this through AI.
and that's what people are claiming that it's a Chat GPT story. Because it definitely reads, yeah, I could believe that for sure. Like I could believe the story is real, but maybe ran it through Chat GPT because they couldn't type it up themselves good enough. I don't know. But a lot of this just like again, even like I said, the cast list is weird because you never reference almost like half of these people on this cast list. What do you mean? You only talk about Blair, Avery, Owen, and then you mention Casper and Barrett. I don't even know. Oh, and then in the first thing with Witchlight, you mention Pyra, Isu, which is Avery, but you just call them by their normal names anyway. So why even reference their character names if you're just gonna call them by their normal names? Like I don't understand. Uh, my brain, my brain. I'm having a conniption, Sammy. Oh God. Okay, let's move on. I'm terrified to even say it, but let's take a look at part two. I guess. Go ahead, bud. Take it away.
Yeah, I have the Blair Saga Part 2, the Rogues Gallery. I don't think they know what the Rogues Gallery really refers to, but that's fine.
But no, no,
Uh,
no. What is it? Do you have the Ballad of Dungeon Mommy Blair, or is it the other one? Because there's the Blair Saga. We're doing the Ballad of Dungeon Mommy Blair, which again,
are there two
confusing.
different ones?
Yes, there are apparently two different Blair sagas, which is why that was also confusing. So do the Ballad of Dungeon Mommy Blair Part 2.
Um,
Because that is the confusing part, is that apparently they wrote two more parts that weren't the original two parts, but you also didn't need to read the original two parts to understand these two parts.
hmm. I think I hate to be the other the
Oh,
one that was the Ballad of Blair was also about this.
oh boy. Whoa, wait, whoa, hang on. Something's happening with my computer. Oh God! Is, is Blair is reading this? Oh my God, my internet connection is unstable. Okay. I think Blair is destroying my computer, or not even Blair, the OP potentially. I think this story I think is cursed. My internet connection is unstable apparently. Uh that's not good. Well, we're gonna do our best here and hope that everything goes okay. Yeah, but go ahead, buddy. Take it away. The Ballad of Dungeon Mommy Blair Part 2.
Yeah. I have it now. I'm using this post to clarify things and bring the lead up to the first kick, TLDR at the end. Long one, but makes the last part smooth sailing. Some user says my story is fake, but in this post and the next post, I have receipts. I won't go over every message, but I will highlight important ones. Sorry, everyone, I had typos I had to fix. I had to add the warning post in replies instead. If you can make it past the mistakes I made in this part of the encounter with Sable. Oh, within this part, the encounter with Sable will make more sense and a happy ending. This is not a standard story, it's a comeback story. You need to work on
Punctuation.
any kind of typing with grammar.
Punctuation, I think, is a big thing. Yeah, OP. Again, I don't know if this is
I
your
mean, just writing in
this
general.
this I don't know if English is their first language or not, but yeah, there's definitely this is getting a little bit difficult. Continue, Sammy.
Yep. Um, Clarifications. This post will go over key events that led to the first kick. Blair gets her name Dungeon Maya from the fact that she treated players like toddlers rather than adults in a condescending way.
We also never
I
even got the first kick in the first story. When did she get
No.
kicked? She just wasn't invited or allowed into the
Who
cat
was I
campaign.
just don't understand. I agree players are not supposed to read modules, but after the first kick, I do read specifically the leveling pacing and find out Blair was screwing with us, which is why I mention it as strange. Edit for context, I only do this after the first kick, not before. Dude, you suck at writing. This is awful. Blair did have rules against PvPs. But
Did
Blair
was she
did
let
let
Avery
Avery
get
get away
away
with it.
with it?
Jesus Christ.
You said you fixed the typos, OP?
You didn't fix anything.
What
I
did
was
you
fed up.
fix? How bad was this before?
Yeah, I was fed up with perks because the other two players had items out of sheer privilege, not gameplay. I added the items because I felt the perks were unfair. Okay, just leave the game because you're just cheating at that point. It's like I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying this lady is a good DM. Why are you here?
If you have
Just
so many issues
if it's this bad, just make other friends. This is fucking like
and
I
you're
hate to be
part
that
of a
guy, but like this we read so many stories where like some of it I understand because these are like people who are really close or whatever. These are people you met online. It's not that hard to find new people. Um,
depends.
Especially if
But
this is your standards for it.
yeah, I
So
mean,
it's you'll
like
find plenty of people like this.
Yeah, like that's I will agree with that. Like, again, it's definitely not easy to find a new game where you actually might want to stay with people, but it sounds like you don't even necessarily like a lot of the people involved in here. Like they're treating you kind of like garbage. So why are you even like again, this is why I think maybe a lot of people feel like it might be fake because it doesn't make a lot of sense in regards to
Okay.
your like
Oh, it just
because
gets better, Adam. It
you're
just gets better.
problematic too, OP. Like everybody here is showing rather toxic, fucked up, selfish behavior.
Yeah,
Like you guys,
literally.
again, you guys are acting like petulant children. I'm sorry to say it. Continue, bud. Recap ritual.
Okay. Well, no, yeah, recap ritual. Well, listen to this for a second. Blair would make us roll for the recap. Lowest roll had to do it. I wasn't great at recap. Not everyone is. Who did recap was given inspiration afterwards. Highest roll had to do it. Which one is it, dumb fuck? Which one is it? Is it lowest roll or highest roll? Because you
So
said both in the same
again, like
shithead
this is why people are
sentence.
saying it's fake. This is why people are saying that this has to be fake because yeah,
A-
shit
A-
like this.
Avery, due to the fact that she was dubbed our note taker, was often exempt from recap and given free inspiration every session regardless. When it came round my turn, sometimes I would remember everything, sometimes I wouldn't. I didn't always take notes. Blair would belittle me constantly, trying to find fault for any small detail I missed. Quote, you should take notes more like Avery. That's why I give her free inspiration every session. Unlike Avery, unlike Avery, I mainly kept track of roles and actions. These are just as valuable as notes, and it paints a picture. In one of my note logs, I mentioned that my logs could be used in tandem with Avery's. Advice for your newer players out there, logs can help you find out if your DM may be fudging rolls.
Okay,
Okay,
okay, okay, okay. Hang on a minute.
that's not entirely untrue,
Oh no, no, no,
but
no,
like
not at all. But
but
the question to ask, wait,
but
what do you mean you keep track of logs and act like roles and actions? Do you
so are
guys not
you
have like
seeing?
what are you guys using? Are you guys using D&D Beyond for your games at all? Because if you are, you have a game log already built in there, like for
I doubt they are.
roles.
I doubt they are. I
Maybe
doubt
not.
they're no.
So then, okay, so you're keeping track of. Why don't you just take notes then? Like, what do you mean? Like, keep roles and actions. Okay. So yeah, I know it's not a bad idea to keep track of roles to make sure that things maybe are making sense, or maybe even yeah, to be able to be like, the statistical probability of you rolling 18s as many times as you have been is kind of ridiculous. Sure, but what do you mean actions? Like, isn't the actions people take in combat? Sure, yeah, that can be nice. Like, yeah, you already did this thing, so you might not be able to do that. But that's more so helpful in the here and now, the present. It doesn't really help after the fact. Like once that action or that roll is done, it's done. It's gone. It doesn't really matter.
Yes,
Like,
I'm very confused. Personal note, D&D community, I wish to ask you a question. When does the
please.
DM overstep their boundaries? Specifically, when does the authority of a DM override player creativity and agency, and should it? No, simple answer, no. It shouldn't override agency, but there's a difference between agency and just not.
And like cheating and trying to just straight up cheat at the game. Like again, if you're talking about agency as in like, yeah, I'm just gonna add items because I'm wanting my character to be stronger. And again, like Sammy said, don't get us wrong, right? We're not saying that what Blair and Avery and Owen are doing and getting is fair or okay because it's not. It is absolutely fucked up and cheating too, as well. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not even necessarily begrudging you if you wanted to be the type of person to take a stand to be like you're giving them free shit all the time. So you know what? I'm gonna give myself free shit. I'm not even against that. I think that's hilarious because I would probably pull some shit like that too, where I'd be like, "Oh, is this the game we're playing? Where player people are just getting free shit to get super powerful? Cool. I'll do that now too." But I'm not gonna pretend as if that's like okay or acceptable. Like that's like how you actually play the game. Like no, I'm gonna be honest about it. Say like, yeah, no, this is clearly an absolute screwed situation all around. That's why I'm doing it because we're clearly not actually trying to play the game together. Like, then you'd have a conversation, right? And be like, hey, if you don't want me to add these items, then let's talk about what Avery and Owen are getting then. And all that other shit. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's communicate about it. If you don't want to communicate about it, guess what? I'm leaving then. I'm
That's
not
really
playing this game then. Like, what are we talking about right now? Sammy's right in regards to like, okay, yes, a GM's authority does not have the power to override a player's agency. A player, quite frankly, should be able to, but I guess then you have to then question, okay, what are you defining as agency, OP, right? Are you going to say like, oh, well, player's agency allows them to just become a murder happy hobo, right? A murder hobo who's just going to kill and destroy everything and derail the campaign. And some people will be like, well, a GM can't stop that. No, they can. They can do that. If a player is legitimately, if a player's agency and creativity is actively disrailing or derailing and harming the game and the rest of the players, the GM 100% has the authority to get to stop that. 100%. It's the GM's game. Well, not just the GM's game. It's everyone's game, but the GM's world, I should say. So the GM has absolutely every right to be like, oh, this person is becoming an irredeemable fuckhead. All right, I'm gonna send the guard after them, or I'm gonna send powerful people after them to stop this clear threat to the populace and the world. Like,
Yeah. My thing is though, that is putting a lot of there's a lot of things that a DM also needs to be careful about because you can't just do that willy-nilly and expect anyone to
agreed.
want to play in your game either. So like there's
100%.
definitely levels to it.
Of course, there's absolutely like, layers to it, or like, as we want to say, let's preface this, and I'm gonna say this as well. We're not always gonna preface this because it should just be implied and understood innately. Everything within reason, right? As we were saying,
Yeah.
but there is a difference between a GM utilizing their authority again, because it's all about making sure the game is as fun for the majority of people participating. That is always the overall objective and intention of the GM and as well as the players, quite frankly. Like that should just be as a communal community thing that we're doing here together. That should always be the highest objective is to make the game as fun and entertaining for as many of the people here as possible. So if a player is or is abusing their personal agency and creativity for the game, then the GM then has free purview, as far as I'm concerned, to exercise, or if some people want to say abuse their authority to fix that problem player. That's just how it
Yeah.
goes. Like, same thing though. And I will say the same as on the opposite spectrum as well. If a GM is abusing their authority over the game against the players have every right to start exercising their creativity and autonomy and agency to put a stop to that toxic GM bullshit. It's both ways. It's both ways. Like,
Yeah, that's the other issue. My thing is like you're not hate to be that guy, but it doesn't sound like you're doing any justice at this table either. Not to say that you would be able to um with how you're
with
being treated,
Blair and Avery and Owen and
but
yeah.
you're not doing it either. Um let me read a little bit more of this because it just gets worse. Um Character hijacking. At a certain point during the creation of my pack,
Mapak? Mapak?
which I looked it up because I didn't know what it was. It's like a raccoon, a humanoid raccoon, like or like a
Ah.
anthropomorphic raccoon,
Mm-hmm.
like Haragon or
I got you.
and then
After the syndrome of Mapak
yeah,
after,
after
yeah.
the loss of my fighter, Blair would heavily double down on character creation. Blair would, just like the other players, go back and forth over trivial details about a character, things like backstory details that didn't even affect the story. Um, uh, and sorry, I'm being asked something.
No worries.
Um, the the way Blair micromanaged characters is she would constantly shift between homebrew and official rules, but never announce which version we would go by for the table. It got so bad to the point Blair would rewrite your backstory in a way it was unrecognizable to your original idea.
Okay, so
When
yeah,
Blair
that is
wrote
a
my
problem.
backstories, it allowed her to now say what I could and couldn't do. It's not in your character to do that. For example, I wasn't allowed to mention anything from the mortal plane because of my Mapok's backstory. She wrote, "You don't remember anything from before you awakened." She would backtrack on this off and on in sessions. It felt like her playing the character, not me. Now that's huge.
Yes. That is a fair critique. That is a fair grievance you have, OP. Maybe the first one I've heard so far that hasn't been like questionable, or potentially also you are kind of part of the problem too here. That is legitimately some bullshit that, yeah, is 100% out of Blair's purview. She does not have control over your character. That is just the case. Like 100%, if there is something that I will say is 100% never the case, is that the GM does not have control over your character, like what they would do if you don't give consent to that. If you do not consent to your GM's input or, influence or whatever, the players always have full, complete autonomy, control, and agency of their characters, who they are, what they are, and what they want from them. This is true. Now that being the case, though, the GM also can put their stance on and say like, okay, well, I cannot that character will not fit in my world unless you maybe switch or augment A, B, or C to make them fit. Like that then is completely and 100% in the GM's right to say and do. The player can always have full, complete control of the character unless, given consent otherwise to somebody else. But the GM then also reserves the right to be like, well, I'm sorry, that character does not fit in this world here unless we make some changes or alterations. That is how that relationship and that dynamic works. So yes, OP, character hijacking is shitty no matter what, and does not seem to be an actual like thing that you might have also contributed to. So you got that one. Please continue, Sammy.
Me and Reese. Blair would yell at me and Reese after she rejected our ideas, swearing up and down we didn't pay attention, that we were delivering a flower to Fey nobles. What? She never
What
mentioned this in session, but she swore she did. She spent the entire session zero yelling at us about what we couldn't use. She threatened us. Sure, go ahead and try, just don't get too attached to your head. Blair wrote my backstory as micromanaging was so bad he could only make remarks on how he wanted to be friends with everyone without Blair holding him at gunpoint, and she still messed with him. What the fuck? It's just, I guess you weren't the only person at the table being micromanaged, is what I got from that. And that's all I got from that.
Yeah, me and Reese, uh, Mike as micromanager so bad he can only make remarks on how he wanted to be friends with everyone. God, oh my God. I really hope that a lot of this is because English is OP is not OP's first language. Like that would make a lot of this make way more sense and be a lot better to receive and understand and be like, okay, fair enough. I swear to God, if OP's first language is English, this is bad. This is it's none of almost none of this is coherent. Like, which is like again why maybe they did put it through maybe a chat GPT and just did not do any kind of editing whatsoever themselves. Like, did you proofread this at all? This feels like a first draft, OP? Like literally like a complete fresh first draft. Continue, Sammy, please.
Yeah. Um,
My new debut.
yeah, my last character died from a pitfall in a hole that's redundant when I thought there was water at the bottom. Blair bought Humble wouldn't let me use a raccoon and called him Apex. This book is rather new to D&D. I made fun of how my old character died in character. Avery shamed me for playing as a girl. It won't get you respect, you know. What does that fucking mean? What is
I,
the point?
I mean, I guess I get it in terms of like, again, I like this whole group sounds incredibly toxic. I'm sorry to say. Like, right off the bat, there are tons of red flags. Like, these people sound incredibly dysfunctional, maybe not entirely mentally stable or sound in a lot of ways. Like, and not just based off of like, oh, they're furries or oh, they're LGBTQ. It's like, no, they sound mentally unstable by their actions. And the fact that fucking Avery literally said at one point that her character was gonna eat a new player's character, like that's just fucking psycho. Like you're just being a mental ass. Like you're going totally mental right there. Like, and so I would not doubt, like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they're men haters, maybe. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what any of this is really happening. And not just that, OP, why are you putting my new debut underneath the fact that you just had character hijacking? We didn't even know what a map pack was initially, but you then explain it underneath that, saying, "Oh yeah, it's a raccoon race called a map pack from the Humblewood." Why didn't you put that up at character hijacking, or just switch these two paragraphs to say my new debut, since apparently this is the new character? What are we talking about? Continue,
Well,
please.
I don't understand.
Oh God. I swear this story is killing my computer. I think legitimately my computer itself is
Is just
burning.
dying.
It cannot process what is being depicted here, like you and I can't process what we're reading.
Yeah, we have the second loss of Greece. This is even better.
Oh
This
no!
session was a disaster. At every turn, Blair's micromanaging was out the wazoo. Awesome. Even though we weren't in initiative, Blair was mad at me moving my character token and accused me and Reese of metagaming and gaslighting while hysterically laughing at him. She would argue with Reese, driving him to cry 2 sessions in a row, and I had to break it up both times. Immediately after, Blair mass sends a final warning with really petty things. Reese leaves on his own, and Blair just messages me, let me know if you have any questions, like a sociopath. Edit. A lot of people think that because the warning had a list means we did these things, but we didn't metagame or fish for info. Up to this point, we never we were never pressed by Blair under suspension of metagaming. I even tried to clarify what Blair meant for certain things when character interactions were involved, but she would assume you should already know. We were in combat-free location, and I was involved in dialogue events with other players. I was accused of changing info when I mentioned a detail in the last session wrong by accident. Me and Owen joked often, but it was recognizable when we did so out of character and in. And the other players you play with had
Cohesion.
cohesion with its occurrence. Where are you from? Because even for someone who doesn't speak English, this is not how people type if they don't know English. So I don't think this is real, if I'm being completely honest. The longer I read this, the more I know it's not real. It's just a bullshit story
I
that
mean,
you
again,
put up on your account.
here's the
I'm
thing.
sorry.
I could absolutely believe that it's real,
Well,
and
no,
they're
even
just
just looking
terrible at typing.
looking at the
The contents?
the account posting it, I don't think any of this shit's real.
You're not wrong.
Um,
The account is also rather suspicious, super sus. Like
yeah,
this.
recap disaster slash vampire muse incident is the next one. After Blair sent her final warning, I was looking for any way to impress Blair so she would be less inclined to kick me.
What?
And since recap was an issue, I locked in. I logged our fight against vampire birds. I tried to tame Sovietica, play with them. We got our butts kicked just for Avery and the Fey Dog Silas to beat them and save us. I logged the rules for the next session and asked Blair if I could do recap next session. Recap day came in MIA. I get through the recap and even lucky to roll high enough to do it. Those notes weren't very good. I, at the point of going over combat and mentioned low rolls, and Owen and Barrett had low, shitty rolls, I joked. I was just trying to play light on the situation. Owen grumbled hearing it. How was that? Blair screamed, no, that was horrible. Me
Okay.
and me and Owen were friends for 2 years and joked together a lot. This was the first time we were not on the same page. Remember, I even made fun of myself for dying earlier, but I later take time to speak with Owen about it. In the same session, I compare the bird's bites to vampire muses in character, and she cursed me out in messages while telling me to not add things, when all I did was name drop. No, but that's some people don't like it when you do something like that. Again, these are not good people. I don't care.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think
I want to get
anybody.
through this last bit because I'm tired of this
Yeah,
story.
yeah. Please, for
The
God's sakes,
high
put us out of our misery.
the hijack and death of my Puma character. You have another character. Awesome. Avery told me
It's
about a
also another animal character too, apparently. So okay.
well, I know
Uh,
these types of people.
yeah, no, no, yeah, me too. I'm just
Avery
like
told me about Dreamweavers and as
as
telepaths,
telepaths.
so I changed it. I also notified the group in advance about it, notified about this as well. Blair changed it back. I felt trapped in a role I didn't want. I really tried to work with the gift stats and even had a backstory where my Fey deal was I had the gift typing as a transformation curse. Quote, you can't just become a gift Yankee, Blair wrote my plot in Fey deal as you will never belong. But looking back, this was just how she saw me as a person. Okay. In which in
What's
Witchlight Lake,
happening?
in Witchlight Lake had a dragon turtle. Me, Owen, and Barrett got eaten, and I instantly get KO'd from the damage. Baron and Owen took minor damage while I failed my death saves. Avery and Catherine just hop in because plot. They didn't take any damage. Owen even asked if he could use his electric spell to shock the inside of the dragon turtle, which could have saved me if he was given enough time to stabilize me after. Blair quickly yells no to him. I failed my last death save and died. I was against unwinnable odds, and I was helpless to save my character with how bad the damage rolls were. Blair messages me to make a new character right after. To be continued.
We haven't even gotten to the first kick. What are we talking about? Wait a minute. Wait a
I'm
minute.
I'm done with this. This is awful.
What did we just read? I don't even, I hesitate to even say we didn't read anything. This wasn't reading. This was, I don't even know. What do you call this? Oh my God. I think this might be like the first time ever where I am so unequivocally I feel like a personal grudge against the OP to such a massive scale right now. Like, I'm like, oh my God. I've never, oh my goodness gracious Lord. All of this was all horrible. Like all of the structure and everything. Again, it's crazy too because it's like, okay, you have it in paragraphs that have their own, subtitles and sections here, but they're all fucked up. They're not even in actual coherent order.
Not even close.
And then the content itself the verbiage you use, your grammar, your punctuation, like non-existent. What are we talking about? And we can be really and let's not be let's get it twisted, okay? We at the Arcane Archive can be very forgiving about a person's maybe little lack of, grammatical prowess or finesse, right? Okay? We don't need you to be like fucking William Shakespeare, all right? Levels of writing, but God damn, brother. Can we please just make shit coherent? Like,
No.
that's the point of words and written language of you gotta be able to convey a thought. Can you do that? I don't even think you're able to convey a legitimate fucking thought in almost any of this at any point.
Doesn't make any sense.
Except, oh, me hate Blair. Kind of, but also me love and simp for Blair too. Like you come off as pardon my language infringing. You come off as a beta bitch simp, OP, okay? Who's just taking back shots constantly from these people for no reason. Like, like you complain and you bitch and you moan about, oh, how unfair and how da 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 da. And yet you still want to fucking suck their dicks, bro. What are you doing? You're still just munching. You're munching on the muffs, man. What's happening? What's going on? What are we doing? You come here on Reddit. If this, like I said, Sammy and the rest of the people, I think I absolutely have it right that this might not even be fucking real because it makes no goddamn sense. It's completely nonsensical. Oh my God, I'm having like a fucking aneurysm. I think I have a brain aneurysm and popping a blood vessel. I'm gonna have a stroke. I'm gonna have all these fucking physical, visceral reactions to how utterly, mentally. Oh God. Whew. So, what are your thoughts on this, Sammy? What are
Oh,
your
I mean,
thoughts?
it's obviously fake. This person is deranged, obviously. But I think there's some things to pull from this. Um, I mean, never play at a table that does stuff like this. I think something that takes away your agency, someone that micromanages your character and tells you, no, you can't have this. I'm gonna write your own sheet. Like there is such a thing as like saying, no, we're just not gonna have this at the table. Or saying, no, you can't start with different things than everybody else, or no, you can't have this super overpowered bullshit you found online. That's not what was happening here necessarily, so I'm not gonna say that it's the same thing. Um, Also, like, make better friends would be another, like, just
I
general,
wouldn't even say these are
like,
your friends. That,
well,
bro, with friends
just
like these, who the
play.
fuck needs enemies?
Yeah, I guess I would say play with people that are a bit, I'd say a bit more sympathetic to you in general, because like this is just a lot, and like
Well,
it's not even like I, I'm not gonna go so far as to call it like abusive,
I kind of
but
a little bit,
if this is
a
how
little bit.
if this is how Blair treated you like consistently, why were you there? Like did they treat you different when you weren't at the table? It doesn't sound like it.
I think here's the thing. Like that might be the one thing that I feel like again makes me feel like this could be like a real scenario and thing that's happening or happened because like again in this particular community I'm assuming like based off of how they are clearly very queer here, right? This is clearly a very queer group, and for the types of queer that they are as well, I know that a lot of people can feel like it's difficult to find their particular flock, where they find people who can connect with them on that particular specific kind of way. Because of the type of queer that they are. And I'm not even talking about as in like, whether you're, LGBTQ, whatever, like, not, I'm talking about that. I mean, like, even when, like, even as an L or a G or a B or a T, you can still be queer even in those groups. You can be different. You can how you express and feel about your personal, sexuality or designation or whatever. Even in those groups, you can still feel kind of like an outsider at times. You can still feel like maybe you don't really click with the others who are ironically already feeling like a smaller group than the vast majority. Even in that group, it's like you can still feel kind of ostracized or unconnected. And so again, a lot of people, hell, when even if you're not part of the LGBTQ community, even if you're, hetero, like that's why people join freaking, the, World War II, group that that's why people join that. You know what I mean? Because they feel so ostracized and so disconnected, and then those people come along and they give you all of that. They make you feel like you have a place to belong as long as you follow their specific, beliefs and thought process, and as long as you hate that particular demographic as well and treat them as lesser. But for you, you're part of this beautiful, sisterhood, brotherhood, family now. And so for this, it's like, okay, I could understand. I still think it's absolutely like you're experiencing mental degradation to do it, but it's a lot of people, that opportunity or that pull or allure of acceptance of like specifically your specific brand of like weird or quirkiness or queerness or strangeness or whatever that maybe you feel other people understand or that they exhibit as well, like that shit's rare. And it can be very intoxicating and it can be very what's the word? Enticing and hard to like walk away from because you might not find it again so easily. Even though, ironically, the vast majority of the rest of the shit that comes with it is super toxic and dysfunctional and effed up.
Yeah, that's an understatement. And
Yeah.
like it's obviously we don't know that much,
No,
but
we have no clue exactly of any real context or backstory or
no,
what the
because this
fuck is going on here
because
at all.
none of this was understandable.
No, completely incoherent. Almost completely incoherent. Almost. Like just we were almost reading straight gibberish from like a dead language, as far as I'm concerned. Like, what, like, but again, I could believe a person is like, this is a real scenario, and maybe they just popped it into Chat GPT, excuse me, Chat GPT, didn't know how to actually summarize it well, and now we're here. Or it could very well be, as you and many others have asserted, it's all fucking fake. It's smoke and mirrors, and not even the good kind. This is like a 2-bit street magician who is like trying to perform card tricks but fucks it up, and then asks to hang on while he like figures it. He's like, all right, pick a card, and hang on, sorry, hang on, one moment. Is this your card? And you're like, no, no, it's not. It's not my card. It's like, damn. All right, watch me pull a rabbit from my hat, and it's like a plastic rabbit that's like this big. Like you're like, that's not even a trick. It's not, you just pulled a plastic rabbit you had in your hat on your head. Like, oh my God. Oh Jesus. I hesitate to even like look at the so-called Blair saga
It's the same
for
story.
yeah, like literally, I feel like this person is maybe just like, are they fishing for Reddit karma? Really? And you're not
Well,
getting any good karma. You're getting downvoted like crazy.
well, yeah, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take at him. Sorry.
Wayne Gretzky and Michael Scott. You're right, Sammy. You're
Yep.
100% right. You know what I mean? Hey, they shat their shot.
Two hockey greats.
They shat their shot, So,
Literally.
uh, hey, do what you got to do, I guess. Like, so, hey, I did just talk a whole lot about the whole desire and risk of like acceptance, right? Maybe this person truly is just somebody who feels incredibly isolated, alone, and they need anything and everything in their power to feel any kind of like human connection or empathy or sympathy or anything. And so, they make up fake stories to post on Reddit to gain their sympathies and empathies from people online.
This
So
is all they have, Adam. We can't take it away, I guess.
yeah, Sammy, it might legitimately be the case that this is maybe all they have, which is very unfortunate.
Which does not make me feel sympathy,
No,
but
none. I have none for them because this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry to say. Little comment here that I do love from Atomic Futham. Let me do a play-by-play check of this warning post. One, metagaming, trying to dig for information that your character has no way of knowing / using information that your character wouldn't know. It ain't wrong on the GM's part. Metagaming sucks, and you already complained in a previous post. The GM made a strange rule to not allow you guys to look at a freaking module you were playing. You're already in the wrong here by your own admission. LOL. Second, derailing the campaign with out of character talking. Debatable, but not wrong on the GM's part. Again, it's not necessarily debatable because, as we've talked about before, is that there is, again, as always, there is a limit, right? You can have a little bit of like, table talk or side talk here or there because, yeah, you're human, you're friends, especially if you're like maybe not part of a scene and it's going on for a long time, you can feel kind of, you know, bored. So, but there is absolutely a thing of like if you are being disruptive, if you are interrupting like particular moments and things that people are role playing out, that is problematic and should not happen. Number three, interrupting other players with jokes and comments when they are trying to roleplay. Absolutely not wrong on the GM's part. Usually people have some leeway on this, but if you need to be constantly called into not doing this, well, it doesn't help your case. Again, same thing as I literally just said, reference back, everything within reason, moderation, consideration, and respect. Number four, not listening to the GM's ruling / arguing with the GM. You save that shit for after the game. Not wrong on the GM's part. I will say it depends. Like again, if the ruling is something that's completely and astronomically asinine and bullshit, I would 100% argue with the GM during the game. If it's something like your character takes 200 points of damage, like no, no, it doesn't. I've talked to you guys about this before. Again, the cringe campaign I was a part of, the GM tried to pull some shit like that, where he basically like was like, "Oh, we lured you to a house because an enemy was firing at you from like 1,000 feet away and dealing 69 points of damage with every shot in the dead of night. dark. It was dark out. Doesn't matter who or what you are. No creature has 1,000 feet of dark vision to be able to shoot you and hit you. Like, and then you get there and oh, he's actually not there. He teleported, but he left a trap for you, and the entire building explodes, and you guys take 109 points of fire and force damage, and you get no save. And it's like, no. No. No, it's no, because we're not even playing a game at that point. You know what I mean? We're not even playing a real game at that point. You're just narrating shit that you want to happen. At that point, we're absolutely going to have a conversation because, again, we're not playing the game. You've already derailed the game. I'm not waiting till after the game to be like, hey, I didn't really agree with that call you made about the 109 points of damage with no save at all because you lured us to a house that was 1,000 feet away with a sniper that could somehow pick us off. I didn't really like that. I disagree. I just want you to know. So please don't do it
I
next
just want you
time.
to. I just want you to
Like, yeah.
understand.
So please don't do it next time. I just wanted you to know I disagreed with that. I didn't really appreciate that. Just as a heads up. No disrespect intended. Absolutely not. I'm gonna call that shit out in game right there and say, fuck no. I'm not doing this. Absolutely not. So take it from me, acolytes. There are 100% situations where, yeah, you probably should have a conversation maybe right then and there for
There are
everybody
there
to
are definitely
see.
some things that need to be addressed immediately.
But there are absolutely plenty of things that, yeah, maybe they can wait till after the game, right? If they are not as disgustingly egregious as what I've just shared with you, maybe, yeah, it can be like, if it was basically a case of just like, hey, maybe there was like, oh, you forgot to do something, or like for instance, it was like, oh, your character goes down, right? A couple of turns have passed at this point, but then you remembered maybe you had like an ability that should have kept you from going down. It's like, oh, like, can I do this? And the GM is like, I'm sorry, we already continued on for a bit. This is like the fifth round after your turn. Like, we can't go back and change everything. It would be way too far gone. Like, yeah, you can have maybe a feeling about that, sure. I would say at that point it's kind of fair because if you forgot that long, it's like it does suck, but at the same token, it's like eh. But that's gonna be something that yeah you want to bring up at the end of the camp or at the end of the game and talk about like, hey, you know, it might just be a thing of you should just remember your ability next time because everybody forgets. So again, this game can be a lot, and you can sometimes forget certain things for your class, and it's okay. We all do it from time to time. But that kind of stuff, yeah, maybe wait till after the game to discuss about it or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, Moving on again. Number, what is it? Five. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, five. Moving without following your movement speed. Moving across the map in one go. Not wrong at all, especially if the game is a dangerous exploration. You don't get to just skip parts you find boring because you want to. Or specifically, you can't move more than your movement speed allows you to. That's the part of the game. It's the point. It's the point of the game. Why are we playing the game if you're not gonna follow any of just the baseline rule sets of how to play the game? That's what makes it a game. You gotta have some mechanics and structure to make it a game, or we're literally just playing playground pretend. All right, and that's not fun for anyone. It's not because it just becomes a nuh-uh yah scenario, and that's just never gonna be awesome for anybody. Number six, trying to change information from previous sessions. What the F is your problem, even? Again, we don't know for certain if that's actually what you were doing or if the GM is just being an asshole. We don't, to be fair. Number seven, if I have to speak with you again about these issues, I will unfortunately have to remove you from my table to limit the disruption to the other players. These are problems that I have talked about time and time again. It makes the game more stressful for myself and less enjoyable for all involved. Even looking from the outside without any inside information besides the ones you gave about your game and your own stuff, you're kind of an asshole if these things are reoccurring issues, which they seem to be to merit a warning slash ultimatum. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think this commenter said it quite well. Like this, if these were literally like the checklist of the warning that Dungeon Master Blair put out, like you know, it's not unfair. A lot of it, some of it, kind of, yeah, but a lot of it is also pretty fair, like and reasonable. at least how it's depicted. Either way, whether it's real or fake, we have no way to truly tell. For some reason, I feel like it's a real situation with a person who's kind of just, I think, a really alone and just maybe not entirely stable person. Um, OP, I'm not saying that to put you down. I'm literally saying that and I mean this with all due respect and sincerity. I think maybe you might need some help, my friend, because it sounds like you've put yourself, if this is real, it sounds like you are a rather toxic, like unstable, unhealthy individual who has placed yourself and continues to place yourself in a very toxic, unhealthy, and maybe even abusive environment, which is not helping you. And if you feel compelled to be a part of that, then again, I think it might behoove you to get some legitimate assistance and help from people like who can maybe set you on a better path to some better health. Because this ain't it, B. This ain't it, my man, my friend, my brother, sister, whatever you identify as. This ain't it. All right. This is just like if you want to hell, take some writing classes even if you want. Like if you want to maybe be able to express this stuff, like that could even help you maybe structure yourself better. I don't know, man. This is just maybe you need to take a break from the internet. Might even be a good idea, honestly. Uh
Yeah, well, a lot of people could use it.
agreed. That's a thing people could probably yeah, touching some grass. Although the grass part, I get it, whatever. Let us put this behind us finally. Let's we need to cleanse our palate a little bit here. I think anything at this point would be a palate cleanser from that fucking aneurysm of a post. Good golly gosh damn. Okay. Next story of the day, apprentices, is titled The Underpowered Problem Player by Fluid Donkey 2039. What a name. All right. Please, Fluid Donkey, please don't be like the last OP. Please give us something coherent at least. All right, this is titled The Cheating Tag. Frankly, yeah, this is a throwaway account I made to write this story. I put this under the cheating flair because frankly, I don't know where else this is supposed to go. Now, there are many stories where problem players are deliberately trying to be overpowered. Mhm. But this is a story about the time where I was the problem player for deliberately trying to be underpowered. Ooh, we got a self-snitch post here, y'all. All right, okay. Better already, quite frankly. Someone taking accountability? Re respo responsibility? Samuel. What a
God forbid. I mean,
concept!
it's weird now. I feel like
What
when
a concept!
someone says, "Oh, I'm going to take responsibility for something," I'm like, "You gotta be lying."
What? Yeah, like, or it's gotta be like one of those, like, them. Oh, my biggest weakness is I care too much scenarios. We're just like, oh, I'm taking responsibility. I tried too hard. I pushed too hard. I did too much. I was too giving. I was too gracious. It's like, oh, fuck off, man. Come on. And don't get me wrong. I get that. To be fair, that can be a scenario that can happen. There absolutely 100, like in all seriousness, there absolutely 100% are people who can be too accommodating, like too, vulnerable or too not vulnerable, excuse me. To give too much of themselves for other people, right? You're a people pleaser is the term. And that isn't healthy and that isn't good. You should be respectful, considerate, you should always maybe do your best to help, of course, the people you love and care about. But don't let people walk all over you or take advantage of you. There's a difference. But anyways, back to the more jokey, fun part that we're getting into. Now, for the major players of the cast, me, the problem player, and Avatar, the GM and server host. There's only two people here on the cast, Sam. That is already a huge increase from before, and I think these people are actually going to be, what was that? Relevant to the story? All right. There were a few others, but my memory of the events are hazy. You know what, OP? I don't give a fuck about anyone else except for the people relevant to this story, which I assume are just you, the problem player in question, and the GM, who was kind of the one that you might be had to contend with here. So you know what? You're good. Okay. So The story takes place some 5 years ago on a Discord play-by-post server that I happened upon. The world has no relation to the Fantasy Nicktoon where the Fire Nation attacked, but the world does involve the elements. Basically, fire, water, earth, and air. I believe there was a fifth element that was either spirit or ether or something, but I don't recall. The elements were hella involved in all aspects of life. Even the literal dirt on the ground is associated with one of the elements, despite it being the most mundane thing in the world. Well, yeah, I mean, dirt is earth, OP. I don't. Dirt is a literal element. I don't know what you're talking about there, but okay. Back then, I was outright terrible with balancing characters as a whole. I didn't understand the concept of characters needing to fit in with the world. So, what do? Well, allow me to tell you. Let us know, OP, what you got. The problems I caused started when I wanted to be unique and submitted a character that had no elemental affinity of any kind. And I'm not talking like the Avatar, where they're the omni-elemental being. No, to put it in Pokemon terms, whereas the Avatar wanted characters to be like Charizard, Blastoise, Tornadus, and Rhydon, I wanted to be more like, Eradicate, the plain Jane Catonian one specifically. Let's call the character Whitney, after the normal type gym leader. Now you got a lot of Pokemon
I
lore
like
under
that.
your belt. OP, all right, all right. Whitney was a rogue because daggers, but she wasn't an edgelord unlike the real Whitney. She was a shy girl who had trouble communicating with people, and I never got to engage in any form of combat in the server. Her starting weapons were the most innocuous things I could possibly think of for the rogue class: a pair of carving forks. Now, I have Robbie Shearer of Helmet Heroes fame to thank for the idea of innocuous starting weapons. If you've played the game, you know. I have not played the game, so I personally do not know. But the submission was rejected by the Avatar, and an argument in the GMs or in the DMs ensued. I was insisting that I wanted my character to be a straight up plain Jane, while the Avatar went on about how there are no plain Janes, and the characters must be associated with one of the elements. If not, maybe more. I don't know. Eventually, I relented and associated Whitney with the earth element. Now, it all came to a true head when I started playing as Whitney. Whitney entered a tavern where a good chunk of the players' characters are in the server. I introduced myself and got into the banter. The one character I recall interacting with the most was either a sorceress or a noblewoman. Now, I'm paraphrasing here as my memory is hazy on what actually went down. But suffice it to say, it was something along the lines of, me, Whitney. My mother doesn't actually believe in the elements, and neither do I. Sorceress, oh, honey, you don't get it, do you? Whitney, I'm serious. I came from a line of plain Joes and plain Janes. Sorceress, Whitney, in this world, the elements are in everything. The wind blowing through the air, the grass, even the dirt. You can't seriously think of yourself as like just a normal, mundane being with no elemental connection. I recall making Whitney more insistent and the sorceress being less blunt about it than what I wrote here. But besides that point, but that was besides the point. What made the Avatar finally kick me out was when I bluntly refused to consider my character elemental or consider my character elemental in character.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay, I get it.
like
Yeah.
he might, as a player, understand that what Whitney's saying is not true,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. Okay, yeah. It's a case of like the whole I'm an atheist in D&D, even though the gods are like present or whatever, I
yep.
think kind of vibe. Yeah,
Although
that
this seems like a less egregious version of that.
I don't know. I think it kind of is this. I feel like it's exactly the same because it is literally like if in this world, like elemental energy literally suffuses everything as just like the basic building blocks of all like even we as humans have, blood, right? We are comprised of water, of matter, which,
Says you.
electricity. What do you mean says me?
He
It's
says
just
you.
we just are. Like
You
we
don't know what
need
I'm made out
air
of.
to breathe, Sam.
You haven't seen what's going on in me.
I,
Okay.
I mean, if we're talking like, what's the word I'm looking for? Spiritually or whatever. Yes, I have. If we're talking about like metaphysically or metaphorically, yes, I have. Okay. Also, just in general sense, like let's not even talk about science, but we need air to breathe. We need water to live. We
Nah,
need
dude,
to
that's a different air though.
No, 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 it's not. It's the
That's a
same
different
thing.
one. It's a different air, I think.
No, no, it's not. What about water? We need water, Sam, to live. We need to literally consume water because when we literally cut ourselves, we bleed liquid.
I actually only drink Diet Coke,
No, you
so
okay? It's still liquid, Sam. It's still liquid.
I know. I love
I know, I know. It's great. Again, these bits are why I believe a lot of you are here as well. This is why we love to do this stuff right here for the jokes and the light-hearted camaraderie and the hang time, bro. But continuing. I got kicked out the same day. What made the Avatar finally kick me out was I bluntly refused to consider my character elemental in character, and I got kicked out the same day. Now, I had brought my character, or I brought my kick up to a Discord buddy of mine, and the buddy said that the Avatar is rather stingy with his stuff. Now, at the time, I agreed with my Discord buddy, but upon reflection, the Avatar, quite frankly, had plenty of right to kick me. See, as long as the Dungeon Master allows some leeway for player creativity, I didn't understand that lesson at the time, but I think it's a lesson we should learn from this. TLDR, I was heavily insistent on being an underpowered plain Jane in a server where elements are the meta and got kicked because of it. In post. Now, okay, what do you think of this, Sammy, first off?
I mean, look, it's not the most egregious thing we've seen on here by any means.
Agreed.
But like, you did make a character that didn't belong at the game you were playing at the end of the
Yes,
day.
that is true.
I'm not saying you were a piece of shit about it, because odds are
This
you could have been way worse about it.
Yeah, 100%. Not,
But
not great, but
but
not
I'm
horrible.
also not surprised you got kicked, and that's probably a healthier way to handle this than most people do. So
Yeah.
it's a tough one because, like, at the same, like, on one hand, you're like, well, I, I got kicked, but yeah, you kind of deserve to a little.
You weren't actually playing the part of the group. You weren't trying to be a part of the group. You literally, and that's the thing. OP, one thing right off the bat. Mad respect to you and thank you so much for, literally looking back on this and being able to acknowledge your part and that you were probably more of the problem overall. Now, here's the thing. It might also be maybe the GM was maybe a little bit stingy or a little like, a little intolerant perhaps. But,
I mean, how do you expect to play in a game when you're just gonna sort of ignore how
and
everything
yeah,
basically
and
functions within the game
you're
world?
because it definitely comes off like you were very much wanting to be, almost like what's the word? Not like a spotlight hog or like a what was the term again we used, Sammy, again in the
Main
community?
character syndrome?
Yeah, that's that. It seemed like
Well,
you were
so
maybe
to
kind of a little
me,
bit of a main character syndrome, but
that's like joining a D&D party, like a D&D tabletop game, but being like, my character doesn't have a class though.
yeah,
And, like, of
or
course you're not gonna be like you're basically not acknowledging a whole entire part of the game. So yeah, of course you're gonna be underpowered. Um, if the DM even lets you do that.
I mean that's what I mean. Like it's like okay, you wanted to be just a normal like. Well, and here's the thing, right? To be fair. There is a literal Avatar: The Last Airbender module or like tabletop game. I don't know for certain since I haven't had a chance to actually play it, but like I think you
Because
can just
there are people that aren't benders, but
yeah,
like they still
exactly.
acknowledge the fact that that thing exists.
Yeah.
And
And that
there's
and that
nothing.
technically everybody is suffused with like especially because this world isn't the same exact iteration
No,
as
and
that.
you know what? I think, and you've already recognized that you were the problem in this scenario, so I'm not gonna dog on you too harshly.
Yeah.
But here's the other reality, is that you're. It sounds also like your DM was trying to give you some sort of connection to the world, which would have ended up maybe with your character maybe gaining some understanding over those things, which would have been a cool way to like for your character to grow. being like, oh, I was just never put with the right people or in the right circumstances to understand that I had a connection to something.
Yeah.
I was in a family that didn't believe that that's what they had to rely on, so
That I
they
think that would
never
work way
they
better.
never
Yeah.
even pushed themselves. But like that's kind of like if you've watched Avatar, which I know you have, that's imagine if like partway through the story, Sokka gains some form of control over
Waterbending
water.
or
Not
something
like
like that.
maybe not like even full control, but like a way to like suffuse, you know, his weapon with like an extra layer of like water or ice or something cool like that, where it was not to take away from his original abilities, but just to add on a little bit of flavor and an extra oomph
Yeah.
to kind of put him on par through hard work, not through just hands outs. But to like not take away from the fact that his character was not a bender. Um, so there's gotta there maybe your DM was gonna go for something like that, and like that would have been a cool character moment. You instead decided, eh, no,
Yeah. I mean that the
I'm just
biggest
gonna
thing that
be
I don't
difficult now,
and that's what it
and
really
like
was. Is like the whole I can't ever understand a person who goes into a game of magic, mysticism, gods, powers, whatever, supernatural, and are literally like, yeah, I don't believe in it. But I just don't believe in any of that. That doesn't make like again to say you and your family don't believe in the elements or the elemental, like that it's like, it has actual power despite the fact that it's right there in
like
front of
literally
you.
right there.
Like there is no there isn't a question. It's not like it's like, about just blind faith or trust. It's
No,
happening in
it could
front
have
of
been
you.
that your character doesn't think they have a connection to it,
That's what I'm saying. I
and
liked
then
your take on that, Sam, of like, oh, your family, and
and
even
there
in
maybe your
in the
family
game,
kind of brainwashed you a bit into believing that.
yeah, or saying like don't rely on them because they're it's not, they're not reliable. Same thing with how like in the
Well, I was gonna
game
say you could even technically make your family actually crazy, and
you
just be
could
like, no, my family genuinely did
doesn't
not
yeah.
did not believe, will not believe, whatever. And that way it can be your character is attempting to escape this like obviously toxic
Yep.
family environment.
Like where they indoctrinated you or whatever, but it could also be something like even in the game of D&D, if you want to play like an atheist, it's not an atheist where you don't believe in the gods. You can play an atheist in the form of you don't believe in the gods in terms of like you don't believe in uh relying upon them, right? They exist, they're there. You know that. That is unquestionable or undeniable. But you're the type that's like, no, I put no stock in the gods. Maybe I even hate the gods exactly because of how petty or selfish or unreliable or
They can
whatever,
be.
yeah, or whatever that they can be. Like, it's like, so you can play it like that, where you're like, you know what? Our family, maybe because of maybe something that, elemental users have done to you guys, you're like, no, I'm not. We don't screw with the elements because we were, you know, not theoretically, but we were both metaphorically and literally burned by them. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't like to give much stock to the elements, but you do have connection to it yourself. And maybe, yeah, like Sam said, that could have been a journey for you to kind of reconnect with that and being able to acknowledge and utilize that power because you have to, you know there's so many other ways that you could have gone about it, but the fact that you chose at that time to kind of just stalwartly be like, yeah, no, I'm just not, I'm just different, I'm just special, I'm just not at all a part of this status quo because I don't want to be a part of the status quo. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
you're not really role playing, you're not really adding anything to the story, you're just making things more
you
difficult.
just want to be different is all it is. You
Which
just
again is not always a problem as long as you're doing it in such a way that isn't antagonistic to the story being told at the table. Because like all you had to do was have just a slightly different outlook on the world around you as a character, and you would have been able to continue playing a character it sounds like you really liked at a table with people that you liked at a game that you said you liked. So like
I mean, also, I
the
mean,
only one that
it's
really loses here, and like
yeah,
that's the sad part. Well, no, that's not true.
they
If
lost another player and everything, like, but it's like it is also the aspect too of like you clearly also just wanted to be, you had this really, interesting idea, at least for you thought is really interesting about having an incredibly innocuous character, right? Even your rogue has carving forks as your weapons. You just wanted to be like this really like, plain individual. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that as a character concept because it can be really funny and interesting for sure, where you're like, oh, you come across this super plain person, but then obviously you're not because you're the hero of this story, right? Like there's literally no way for you to actually be a plain person if you're one of the hero players of this story.
If you were only in here for like a session and you wanted to play a normal person that had impact on the story, that's one thing. Like there's nothing wrong with intrinsically being like underpowered or bad at certain things, but you just gave
You,
yourself
you just rejected the
no.
world, basically, is
Yeah,
what it
which is
was.
like at that
And
point just play a different game.
yeah, and that's again, that is technically what ended up happening, because it was like, yeah. And like I said, OP, like, please don't take it like we're trying to bash or like we're just explaining kind of like, maybe the thought process, or at least our thoughts on what the thought process and what the thing was for people who might still feel this way and might still maybe were there themselves, maybe haven't, like you have, they haven't been able to truly reconcile and self-analyze to the extent that you did to recognize their thought process as being kind of like, maybe not the best. Again, there's nothing wrong, yeah, with maybe wanting to make something a little bit more original or different, or strange and unique. That's awesome. But there obviously always is that line where you still have to technically cater to some of the baseline rules of the world. Like I remember I was having a conversation with a player that I had before, trying to like talk with him about the whole like there was a player I had who was just like intrinsically paranoid of everything and everyone in the world. Even though it was like even like I had an NPC with them that was helping them, and he was literally like the most innocent, just like dopey, just like, hey, what's up,
Well, ever since
bro?
I played Curse of
How's it
Strahd, I don't
going?
trust any NPCs, so
Yes, even ones who are just the sweetest, they help you, they take care of you, you're just always intrinsically never gonna
yeah,
trust them.
who do you think betrayed us?
Well, I mean that's Curse of Strahd though. Like there's a
Yeah, and now I
difference.
take that with me to every other no,
No,
I'm just kidding.
no, yeah, exactly, yeah. And point being is, I tried to explain to them. I'm like, okay, all right. So here's the thing. Like, they're saying, like, I'm saying they're going like, why do you mistrust this person, this NPC? They're like, well, because they could betray us at some point. I'm like, well, sure, anything is possible, but it's not probable. They've never given you any reason to
Well, that's the
not
other
trust them.
thing. It's like,
I
why is it your character or is it you as a
Well,
player?
that's what I'm saying. And point being
Because
is like
that's the hard bit.
I was trying to convey to them like it seems more clear that you're utilizing your more like real world mentality for this rather than it actually being, you're playing your character in this world. Because you even rolled an insight check to see if he was lying, and you rolled high, and I told you that you believe him, that he wasn't lying. Like, and yet you're still questioning whether or not like he could be lying. And I'm like, what? And so I even gave like a scenario. I'm like, okay, if your character was in a world that I made that I said nothing bad has ever happened in the history of ever, would you believe that your character would still have any reason to be paranoid or suspicious of anyone? There has never been a recorded documentation or experience from anyone you know yourself ever to have experienced any kind of negative thing ever. No stealing, no lying, no cheating, nothing. Nothing. It's only ever been good. Would you still say your character has, like, logically speaking, reasonably speaking, any reason to be suspicious of anything? And they're like, well, yeah, because it could happen. I'm like, no, no, it can't. It can't
Like
happen.
in their past, has something happened?
No, it has not. Nothing bad has ever happened to them ever in the history. And not just them, nobody. Nothing bad has happened to anybody in the history of ever. In that world, nobody would ever intrinsically be suspicious of anything because nothing bad has ever happened. They would have no reason to be. But for some reason, it was something they could not compute. They literally couldn't seem to understand it. And so it's like I feel like a lot of people maybe sometimes get in that place too, where for some reason they are unable to disconnect their own personal beliefs and thoughts and paranoia and suspicion from the game. It's a completely fabricated world. You know what I mean? The rules are what the GM says because the GM is the over god, right? So that's kind of where your suspension, your escapism comes into play, right?
Oh yeah, like that's it's entirely realistic certain characters would also be more prone to stuff like that.
Yeah, it's and again, like don't get me wrong though, but and obviously what I was telling them was that was a extreme exaggeration, just to try to showcase like why I felt like they were being a bit unreasonable and they weren't actually playing the game. Where you're like you're bringing something else in here that doesn't need to be in here. Um, but like yeah, with this, the same thing can be applied to even a situation or a world that is a little bit more realistic, and that yeah, bad things can happen. But that doesn't automatically mean that they will. Again, it's good to be conscious, it's good to be aware, and maybe even a little bit paranoid. A little bit of paranoia never hurt anybody. But you also then, on the flip side, you got to be able to trust people too. You got to be able to be open, to be vulnerable, to be receptive. Like that is also part of it. And, so same thing here with people who just for some reason want to be like, yeah, no, my character's going to act this way just because. And it's like, okay, you can act that way. Like your character can be crazy if you want. Your character can be, insane or just whatever, and that justifies you acting that way. But then you have to acknowledge, but then you can't be like, no, they're not crazy. They're doing it because it makes sense. Like, no, no, it doesn't make sense. And guess why? Because I am the literal over God of this world that I made. And I'm telling you, it's not logical. It's not reasonable. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. And you can play that character. If you want to play a nonsensical character, that's fine. But you got to acknowledge that it's nonsensical. And that's it. Like, that's just what it is. If you want to play in a world, it's like, yeah, but overall, again, the point of these things is coming together. You want to come together to create something beautiful with people, with others, not just yourself taking the spotlight to do whatever the fuck you want. Okay. But I think that's enough about that. Unless you got anything else, buddy, for this one.
No, you had it.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Take it away, bud. I think this is the last one we got for y'all today.
Yeah, I have our sorcerer locked the door twice while we were dying outside.
Oh boy.
Hey folks, I've been sitting on this one for a few hours, but it's still gnawing at me. This story isn't about a rules dispute or bad dice. It's about trust, teamwork, and what happens when those things fall apart in a game that's supposed to be collaborative.
Ooh, I like this already.
We're a mid-level party in the middle of a tough arc. Our usual healer couldn't make it that session, so we were knowingly shorthanded. That meant we had to watch each other's backs even more than usual. The fight started rough. Our barbarian Thorn got hit with a hold person and ended up surrounded by 3 enemy melee fighters and 2 spiritual weapons. That's rough stuff. Paralyzed, completely helpless. Our party's sorcerer, Varen, decided to retreat behind a door and shut it. Didn't call for fallback, didn't cast a support spell, just quietly shut the door behind him while Thorn was about to be chopped apart. I'm playing Ray, a frontline martial artist with high HP and strong convictions. Seeing Thorn doomed, I made the call. I sprinted across the battlefield, opened the door, and charged in to hold the line, hoping to buy enough time for a save or to turn the tide. Once I got low on health, Varen shut the door again. No communication, no warning, just sealed it and stayed in the next room. Both Thorn and me ended up unconscious. We were the front line, the most durable members of the party, and we both dropped while our caster stayed behind the door. To his credit, Varen did use Mage Hand to give Thorn a healing potion once. I was already down. That's worth noting. He didn't completely abandon us, but let's be honest, by then it was just damage control. When we needed teamwork and fast intervention, we got self-preservation. And when someone finally acted, it was too late to stop the collapse. After the session, I brought up how bad this felt, as a player and in character. I said this wasn't a tactical move, it felt like betrayal. One party member paralyzed, the other rushing in to save them, and our sorcerer standing behind a closed door watching. The DM brushed it off, saying it was a tactical retreat. I pushed back, explaining that it wasn't coordinated, it wasn't discussed, and it left 2 players to die in a session where we were already weakened. I said this wasn't just a bad call, it broke the sense of party unity. The reply? DM's call, let it go, no one died, it worked out. Even threw in this weird comment that our missing cleric might have been able to solo the boss ahead, which had 0 relevance to the fact that 2 players were left behind during a combat that was happening right now. What stung the most was the dismissal. No one else is upset. Well, I was, and hearing that basically said my reaction didn't matter because it wasn't shared by everyone else.
Hmm.
This wasn't a combat misstep. I feel like this was a breach of trust. We were supposed to be a party that's been through hell together. And this, I don't know if I can trust that everyone has each other's backs. It's hard to roleplay camaraderie with people who in-game and out-of-game treat you as disposable. Vagrant's player didn't say a word. No,
In character.
oh yeah, no in-character justification, no out of character comment, just total silence. Like the whole moment wasn't worth engaging with. And the DM's response made it clear that how players feel about a moment isn't as important as the narrative surviving intact. I'm still in the campaign, but I'll be honest, I'm not looking at the group the same way. Though I get that sometimes character makes selfish choices, and I get a DM wants players to figure things out for themselves, but at what point does tactical retreat just become abandonment with no consequences? If you're going to play a selfish character, fine, but shouldn't that come with some accountability? And when a player brings up feeling hurt or let down, is let it go really the best response? I'm curious how you all handle this. Edit, thank you for your comments. It tells me a lot. I have left the campaign and decided to look for a new group instead. Ugh.
All right, well, what do you think about this one, buddy?
Oh, 100%. It's betrayal of the highest order.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm.
100%. Look, I get it. Especially if you're more of a caster player.
You're
I'm
squishier, sure.
like I'm not a caster player. Most of my even if I'm playing a caster, half the time it's caster mixed with some sort of martial class. Um, because I don't like being squishy.
Here's the thing.
I
Well,
play a
sorry,
lot of, you
continue,
know what it
continue.
is? I play a lot of midline fighters.
Hmm.
I don't normally play tanks. I play things that can sit in between the back line and the front line, can take some heat, or have ways to avoid taking damage.
Same.
I'm a
Like,
midline guy. I that's what I do more than anything else. But I do not hesitate to throw myself in the fucking ring, to make sure that I can help people out. It's never been, unless I'm playing a very specific type of character, it's just not the way I play the game. To be fair, I also play things strategically. I recently, within the last, I'd say 2 years of playing, decided I would no longer put myself in harm's way for people who don't make educated strategical decisions at my games. I was tired of some of the people I played with
that's
just
fair.
just overall not making smart decisions on a
Yeah,
battlefield.
yeah.
And I was tired of the
No, I get
consequences that
it.
that
That's
means for everyone
fair.
else, and also just people bitching about it when they go down. It's like, first of all, stop building shitty characters. Stop bringing in characters that do not survive contact. I'm tired of it, because even a wizard or something that has,
I mean,
someone that is
that's what I
a
was gonna say.
caster, someone that is a
Yeah,
caster can hold their own in the late
yeah,
game.
yeah.
Stop bringing in characters that have no con, no dex, don't wear armor, like just have no way to protect themselves. Stop
Yep,
bringing those
yep.
characters in.
I agree.
Sucks. I know it sucks to hear, but like
I mean, I don't think
I hate
so.
it. I
Like,
hate it.
you know,
I hate it so much.
I understand, and I'm with like. So my first initial thoughts, like, one thing I will say, OP, before I get like, I agree with Sammy 100%. I agree with you, OP 100%. Like this sorcerer was fucked. Like that decision on their part was an absolutely selfish bitch ass move of the highest proportions. 100% a betrayal. Like you said, I don't give a fuck if he threw one health potion in there. That's basically like a consolation prize of like, well, here you go. I'm gone now. Bye. Like, no, no.
You're telling me not even a support spell? Like
I
I
mean,
know I know
that's what
sorcerers don't have
he
much.
is a no, they do. And again, I mean, this was 3 days ago, and apparently it's saying that they wrote this a few hours after the fact. Meaning, I assume you guys are probably playing 2024. Even if you're playing 2014 edition, sorcerers, take it from me. I'm literally playing one right now in a campaign. They have plenty of things to help you in this situation. Sorcerers are DPS if nothing else. That has
Yeah, I mean they're
always been.
blasters, so
That
like you
has
could still do
always
something.
been the sorcerer's role. Even though they're not necessarily the best at it all the time, that has always been their role.
There has never been a
DP,
problem with sorcerers ever in fifth edition D&D.
that is a completely untrue statement. The likes of which that we both understand is the proportions. I can't even. Anyway, we're not even going to get on that right now. I'm going to have a whole other conniption entirely about that. But
Sorry.
Sorcerers in general, at least in 2024 now, especially, far better than they were before. At least the subclass I'm playing. It's pretty great, actually. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's awesome. Like this sorcerer here was a wuss puss of the highest proportions, is what it was. Like this, and the fact that here's the thing that I will say, OP, despite the fact I 100% believe that as well, it is also the case of like, look, it is not necessarily the GM's purview. Like this is what we were talking about before about that reasonable like GM interference. The player made their call. It's not the GM. The GM can't then say, "Well, that sucks. You shouldn't do that," or give like repercussions because the player was selfish about that. You know what I mean? Like the player didn't actively attack you guys or screw with you guys or fuck with you guys or whatever. They just didn't help. And while that does suck and feels very shitty, the GM also it can't really punish a player for doing that. They were perfectly within their right as a player to do so, even though it's shitty. You know what I mean? I would say the repercussions or, the accountability that you or consequences that you want, that is up to you. Because 100% that happened in character, right? So now, yeah, your character now has every right. Like you said, like how can you have camaraderie? How can you feel trust? How can you feel, well, realistically, yeah, that trust would probably be shattered quite a bit with that decision. So yeah, now in character, play that out then, right? Utilize that as a means of being like, hey, what the hell happened? Why didn't you come and help? But you just left us to die. What the fuck, dude? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that is something that you kind of do have to handle in game. And then obviously, if it starts to kind of bleed more from the real world, like of like, the sorcerer's like, well, I didn't want my character to die and nah, nah, nah. And it's like, or, you could still technically say it in character of like, well, I didn't feel like we could win. I didn't want to die. And, but it's like, okay, well, that's something you're going to have to contend with now, then, aren't you? I don't know how long you guys have been playing this game. Like you said it yourself that apparently you guys have been through hell together and you've overcome a lot of things and adversity.
Or the backstory of the characters talks
Yeah, and
about that
maybe
as
that's the
well.
case too. Maybe it is the backstory of the characters, in which case, maybe that does have to then be a conversation outside. In which case, yeah, it is also very shitty for the GM to be like, it was just a tactical retreat, da 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 da. It's like, no, it wasn't a tactical retreat. Because like you said, OP, there was no tactics or discussion or anything about it. Because if it really was a tactical retreat, guess what? If the sorcerer was smart, he should have taken Vortex Warp and teleported, the paralyzed barbarian Thorn out of harm's way. Or you, as another frontline fighter, could have run in, grabbed your barbarian buddy, and started running back to the door, while your sorcerer could start, laying down cover fire for you. You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of things. You have every right to be pissed, 100%. This was fucked. Absolutely. And it is shitty that the GM is being such a fucking, a dismissally motherfucker because, and again, it was shitty. And, no, it shouldn't just be brushed off, especially shouldn't be brushed off just because, quote unquote, no one else feels a way about it, which is weird. Again, like I said, I don't again, I don't know. If what you're saying is true and that the sorcerer didn't do anything at all besides give one health potion, that's messed up. If it's a thing where he like utilizes the door as like cover and then opens it and is still firing off spells or something to help, maybe that's different. Because I'd be interested to know if you guys both went down and it was just a sorcerer, how did you guys survive the encounter then? Like what happened? Did you get captured? Did the sorcerer kill everybody? Like because then that might be a bit different of a scenario, right? Where the sorcerer didn't run in there after you guys because, yeah, he'd probably be less likely to stay up, but he was still shooting spells to help. Like that's less egregious. Like that isn't like a betrayal in my opinion. That's just like, yeah, like because again, I play plenty of spellcasters myself. Um, and it's definitely true if you're squishier, you do have to be a little bit more tactical. But even I, like Sammy, I usually try to prepare my casters for that inevitability. Because sometimes you're going to have to get up in somebody's face or they're going to get up into yours. And you got to be able to either dodge or tank some hits. So no, con should never be your dump stat. Acolytes, just as a straight up for anybody out there, con and even dex should never be dump stats. Doesn't mean they always have to be your highest stats, but they should never be dump stats. Because yeah,
No.
you're gonna have to take some hits sometimes, especially if your other friends are on the verge of dying. Like, yeah, sometimes you gotta get in there. I've done that multiple times, but I also do play characters and classes that allow me, like Semi, that allows me to do that. It's one of the reasons I love the Blade Singer class so much. It's one of the reasons why the new Dragon Blood Sorcerer is kind of fucking amazing and phenomenal in a lot of ways. That's why, playing certain bard classes or warlock classes are awesome. Clerics. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be able to take some hits and get in there. Like I said, I feel like we are missing maybe some bits here because I don't understand how you guys survived if there was only three of you and two of you went down and then the sorcerer just left or whatever, like, and went and hid or something. I don't see how you guys would have survived then. So I feel like we're missing a little bit of context here. But
Yeah, probably.
overall, I will say if it did happen the way you're describing it, where the sorcerer literally did absolutely nothing, that is fucked. If he did do things, if it was just simply that, oh, he didn't run in the room with you guys, he stood behind the door and used it as like a cover or a shield, opened it, and then started firing off spells, then that's different. And you might, then yeah, then maybe you are overreacting a little bit. Like in terms of like, because that's, to be fair, that is more tactical. And I could see that as being like, yeah, I wouldn't expect him to get in there because that would also probably limit his capacity to effectively help the situation based off of his particular skill set. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I played squishy casters before, and I absolutely will do things like, yeah, unless I absolutely have to, or I feel confident that I can like shield AC, block an attack or something. No, I'm not gonna get in there. I have 8 health, and this thing is dealing like 12 to 16 damage per hit. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not gonna get right up in there. You know what I mean? Like, but I can deal a lot of decent damage from further back. I'm gonna keep distance, and hopefully you guys don't die. But it
No, no,
also
like to me,
means
it's the same thing as like playing any of the other like playing a rogue, or even to a lesser extent, depending on what level you are, a monk. You can't be you're not the main front line, so yes, you'll tank in a situation that absolutely requires it, but it just seems so weird to me that your go-to tactic is to just be like, fuck it.
like that's. I mean, like I said, I do like kind of like one of the things that the comment down below says, which is like, yep, this is a horror story. I think the part where a player pulls this move is already kind of bad, unless there are like narrative reasons for it, like lots of tension between characters or such. But they're not addressing it while it happens or afterwards. Excuse me, even though they know how uncomfortable it makes another player, that's just low. I'm like, yeah, that again, that is also I think where the biggest issues do lie is the fact that the player in question, apparently from OP's rendition, says absolutely nothing about it. Doesn't address it, doesn't talk about it, even though OP literally brings it up. And then the GM, as the commenter says, look, the main horror of this scenario is clearly the GM. He also could have addressed the actions of said player, pointing out what this means for his character and the group as well, but then also just being so dismissive of your feelings and like discomfort in a very rude and useless way. That's just awful of him. I'm sorry. Like that really is the real issue here. Is your GM like, again, depending on the scenario, if it is as you said, the GM should be understanding of your feelings and being like, I did not like that. That felt bad. And the GM should have, and the GM, being a real good GM would have been like, yeah, I understand. Literally like what I said of like, yeah, that sucks. Like that was a shitty thing for him to do. Like, we should ask and talk to the player, like, what were the thoughts going on in his head? Like, was it just a selfish thing? What was going on? And again, what that means for the party. Because no, I don't think that the GM should step in and be like, you're gonna get reprimanded or get some kind of negative aspect or something because of your decision here to not engage. But instead, just be like, yo, let's have a conversation about this, as always, as always.
Let's make sure we're all on the same page about what the
Yeah.
expectations are
Like
here.
going forward, like what this means. Like you realize your character doing this, that's going to have an effect on how these other characters view you now, right? You kind of left them to die. So, like, you can't just be like, well, I did it to run away. Or I didn't want to die. And it's like, okay, sure. But you also left them to die, which means that they can't trust you to be in there. Like, you guys are supposed to be battle-hardened adventurers who care about each other, who want to protect each other. You have powers, magic. Like, like I said, it says they're a mid-level party. So I'm going to assume mid-level means they're at least like level 7, like 7 or 8 maybe. Maybe if not like level 10 or higher. We're talking mid-level, right? Mid-level is normally in like in the tens range. It's like I want to say like maybe from like level 7 to level what 13. I want to say is
Really,
like
really, like
mid-level range.
six and on till you get to like 13 is mid level.
Yeah, so it's like you guys aren't weak at this point. You're
Everyone has access to attacks if they choose to. You know, it's more the
like
fights you're going to get in are going to be longer and more hectic.
you have a lot you have decent amount of things you can do at that point. Like level 7, you got access to level 5 spells at that point, I believe. No, sorry. Level 8 I think is level 5 spells. But either way, level 4 and below, like even if you're level 7, like you still have vortex warp, you've got misty step, you've got, fucking dimension door at that point that you could use like shield,
Fly, haste,
silvery barbs if you want to,
fireball.
sleep. You got access to sleep. You got to act like you got so many things as a sorcerer, even as a sorcerer. Like, and especially even if you're playing the 2014 edition, you still got access to a lot of things as a sorcerer at that level.
Yeah,
Um,
you have your class abilities, like your level class abilities as well,
yeah.
subclass
So
stuff.
this
Like
this
there's no way that the only thing you could feasibly do is run
yeah. Like again,
like a coward.
I just find it strange is all. Like I find it suspicious and strange that OP is saying no one died, no one else is upset. So it's like, well, why not? Like, okay, and how? If you two both went down and the sorcerer did nothing, how are you guys alive and why is no one else upset? It doesn't, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I feel like there's some holes in the story with that, is all I'll say. Like,
Definitely.
that's that, it just feels a little bit sus because it doesn't make sense. Like, because absolutely, if everything happened the way you said it does, OP, people should be pissed. Like, you and the barbarian player should both be pissed because that's fucked.
Oh, dude, I would be livid.
Yeah, me too. I would be like, what the fuck, dude? Like I
Stuff
like
like this, and then if you have a mostly TPK, and then the last person just gives up, or like there's two people left and they just give up instead of trying to fight their way out, that also pisses me off in a very similar sense. It's like, yes, you're sad, yes, you're care, but like no one's just gonna let themselves no self-respecting hero, no matter how many of their friends go down, is just gonna let themselves die for no reason. Either put up a fight or run. Don't just stand there and let it happen.
I'm something. I don't know, man. Like I like what
Literally
I
anything.
like something. Like I like one another commenter down below says, I've had similar things happen to me before. Once my character got snatched up by some baddies and was slowly being dragged away. Our ranger, who sees the whole thing, then proceeds to break an arrowhead off an arrow, look for a rock, try to tie said rock to the arrow shaft, and then fire it. By the time he made all of his rolls, my character had already been dragged away. The whole situation is honestly worthy of its own horror story, but I very clearly remember asking the player, what are you doing? Because it didn't make any sense. What I did back then was what I suggest you do now. Treat it like a purely in character matter. Like, yeah, what I was saying. While the player might have been dumb, they probably weren't acting maliciously to you. Again, like that is possible. However, your character would probably have some choice words for their companion and might see them in a different light. Exactly. A little inter-party conflict can be fun just so long as it doesn't evolve into outright hostility. Yes. OP responds, yeah, well, my character died because I surrounded myself to the remaining enemies and made a deal with the enemies to let everyone else go alive because if I didn't, everyone would have died. But you just said nobody died.
Yeah, I don't know.
See, this is what I'm talking. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is questionable.
The questionable thing to me is how the other player handled it.
Yeah, I don't
Just leaving people
know.
behind is
What I don't understand is why nobody else.
cared.
Yeah, like, well, nobody else is saying anything. But also, I'm also kind of confused by why some of the commenters aren't picking up on that either. Like, OP responds to this, and nobody else is like, because you literally say, like, was the GM lying when they said that? Was the GM saying like no one else has died? Because it's like the GM says it worked out. Like, were they like again? Were they just lying? I don't understand. I can't reconcile the discrepancy here. Uh, Although one of the commenters asked the other commenter like, what did the Ranger hope to achieve by doing that? One another commenter goes like, bludgeoning damage for something resistant to piercing and weak to bludgeoning is my only thought. But the original commenter says like he was worried that he might roll a nat one and hit my character with the shot.
Okay.
uh, would that not? So would bludgeoning damage have been better if you'd roll a nat one than piercing
I
damage? I
guess it
don't.
could be considered non-lethal
But technically, so can an arrow though. Piercing damage can still be non-lethal if you just hit them
in a
in like the
non-lethal
leg.
area.
Yeah, like because if we still be not if it's a nat
Well,
one, you hit if you hit someone in the head with a rock, like that can still be pretty lethal. Like
oh, 100%. Especially a rock propelled at high
yeah,
velocity.
if that even works, which wouldn't. So that doesn't make any
Also,
goddamn sense.
also attaching weight to the end of an arrowhead would make it an
That's what I'm
improvised
saying.
weapon,
It wouldn't
which
work.
which you would have disadvantage with by rules as written because it is a what's the word I'm looking for? It is an
Improvise.
improvised weapon,
Yeah,
and
weapon
nobody starts with improvised weapon proficiency.
proficiency. Yeah.
So you would have disadvantage, or you just wouldn't be able to use your proficiency bonus on the attack roll, which gives you a higher chance of hurting your friend. Um, so yeah, it makes perfect sense. I guess in the heat of the moment, though, I can say at least they were still, if that's the case, I guess still wanting to help, just weren't thinking about action
Why
economy.
didn't they should just ran up to him? Like I don't like he was being slowly dragged away. Like there
Just run
anybody
up and attack.
that's what I'm saying.
Rangers aren't
Run up and attack them.
squishy either. Rangers
Or
have the second highest hit die.
run up, get a different position where you're less likely to
Rangers
hit.
are like Rangers are like the perfect mid to
Yeah.
close range because
Yes. Yes, they can do
they have the
everything.
second highest hit die. They're not
Yeah.
squishy by
And they
any
can have second
means.
highest hit die. They can attack both,
And their main
with
stat is
is
dexterity,
dex.
which is
Yeah.
good for armor.
But
I don't
for range and melee. Yeah, again, it's true. People can just be
could
stupid
it could
sometimes. It's
also
true.
be someone
People can
with
just
not a
stop.
whole lot of experience.
I don't even think it's not an experience. People can sometimes just have those moments of brain fart, right? Where they're just like,
Why did I do
oh,
that?
and especially like in a situation where it's like, oh, other people are counting on you to make a decision for their life now. Then they start feeling all that pressure and they're like, and they just freeze up. And maybe that's what happened in this story. Maybe the sorcerer just fucking froze. Because it certainly seems like that because he's not talking at all. Seems like he's just frozen literally. Like, either way, I don't know. Anything else you got about this one, bud?
No.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
we did it. I think we went over what we needed to.
yeah.
I liked this one because it made me think about some of the moments in some of the games throughout my
No,
years, and I'm like, this was just dumb.
agreed. I've also had some experiences like this too. And yeah, it's never a good feel. It always sucks. We're just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, literally, what are you doing? And it's yeah, it's never fun.
Why are
Again,
you doing?
it's the couple things I feel are a bit suspicious. I don't entirely believe this one is real, ironically, even compared to the other one, based off of just certain things that OP said. Um, but if it was real, completely understand OP. I'm really sorry that happened because it's shitty. Um, but I'm glad that, hey, you left the campaign and hopefully you find a better one then, that where people don't do shit like this. Um, but with that said, Thank you guys so much if you stuck with us this long. We hope you guys enjoyed. We appreciate the support you guys have shown us so far. Be sure to like, comment down below on the things we've talked about. Let us know about your thoughts and things. Hell, if you can't think of anything to say, just put down Dommy Mommy Blair in the comments. If you
You don't have
you
to do
know
that.
if you can't, well, if you can't think of anything else, do that. Write that one. If you
Well,
can't think of
just
anything else to
I don't
comment,
necessarily want to be
Dommy Mommy
reminded of
Blair.
that story
There you
though.
go. Hey man, this was trauma bonding of the utmost proportions if there ever was anything, Sam. We must never forget, for we will be doomed to repeat it. Do you want to read that story again, Sam? Do you want to forget it and then read it
Yeah, do
again?
you wanna save that Reddit profile and we can read other stories by
Hey, you know what? Sure. Why don't we reference back to the Blair saga since we didn't read that one technically?
you're doing it. Oh no.
No, no, never, never again. I'm not. I will never. Unless, of course, there's an overwhelming amount of comments and desires and subscribers that want us to read the Blair Saga next. We're never ever referencing this or coming back to this ever again. But thank you guys so much. We appreciate you, acolytes, apprentices. May you find joy, balance, harmony, and many crits in all of your games. And we'll be sure to catch y'all next time when we dive back down into the archive. So long, y'all. We'll see
See
you later.
y'all.